and welcome to the new WTIX studios and offices, the oldest of the 6 Storz radio stations. On behalf of the staff of WTIX, I'd like to bid you a most cordial welcome. I'm Fred Berthelsen, Vice President and General Manager, and now I'd like to introduce you to Perry Murphy, our Production Director, who will give you a brief history of the Storz Broadcasting Company.
Back in 1933, when radio was still in its infancy, and the big red brick brewery that his family operated since 1876 was converting once again to resume the brewing of beer, 9-year-old Todd Storz was fiddling with a crystal set, the beginning of his interest in radio. By 16, Todd was licensed to operate a ham station in his basement. At the University of Nebraska, Todd sparked the creation of a basement-operated campus radio station that made enemies of the commercial stations in nearby Lincoln because Todd's station became so powerful and influential that many of these stations lost their advertisers to the Storz-originated campus radio station. He served in World War II as the youngest warrant officer in the service as a Signal Corps cryptographer. His first post-war job, in radio naturally, was with KWBW, Hutchinson, Kansas, as engineer, announcer, salesman, and copywriter. In 1947, he returned to Omaha, joining KBON as an announcer. Later, he changed to KFAB, also in Omaha. In 1949, television came to Omaha, the same year that Look magazine predicted that by 1950, there will be only 10 super-powered radio stations left, and by 1960, no radio at all. It was also in 1949 that Todd Storz, then 25, together with his father, raised $50,000 cash, borrowed an additional $25,000, and organized the Mid-Continent Broadcasting Corporation to buy the radio assets of the Omaha World Herald, operating KOWH. Robert H. Storz became president, Todd Storz vice president and general manager. KOWH, a 500-watt daytimer, was small and virtually unknown. Almost immediately, the station took on a new life as a new sound was conceived, that of a popular music, to appeal to all segments of the listeners. 6 months after KOWH became a Storz station, it pulled first-place ratings that astounded industry veterans everywhere. First-year profits amounted to only $84. But the next 7 years, while the station was still Storz-owned and operated, station profits skyrocketed to well over $1 million. Thus, the first Storz radio operation became known in broadcasting circles throughout the nation. It marked the beginning of a new era for radio and developed into one of the industry's most amazing success stories. With the success of KOWH now assured, Mid-Continent acquired its second station and now also its oldest, WTIX in New Orleans in fall 1953 for $25,000. The Storz formula clicked again, and within 6 months, WTIX moved up into first place from almost last. In May 1958, WTIX acquired high-power, low-frequency 690 dial position when the old WWEZ frequency became available. In an unprecedented public service gesture, Storz donated the old frequency of 1450 to the New Orleans Public School Board for use as an educational station. This station, now WNPS in 1958, was appraised as a $500,000 frequency. Todd felt that the people of New Orleans would benefit most by this move and was honored by the City of New Orleans mayor, the late Mayor Morrison, with a certificate that read, "A significant advance in the educational development of the city," when speaking of the contribution. Omaha's George Bud Armstrong was WTIX's first manager. He remained with WTIX in that capacity until late 1954, when WHB in Kansas City was acquired for $400,000. Bud was transferred to Kansas City, and a native New Orleanian and former WTIX salesman, Fred Berthelsen, took over the reins of WTIX. Today, Fred, as vice president and general manager, is responsible for the acceptance that WTIX has enjoyed in New Orleans for the past decade in both listenership and sales. The most recent rating averages and all-time record business is further proof of Fred Berthelsen's dynamic leadership. And on goes the Storz success story with modern-day radio. WHB is today considered the flagship of the 6 Storz stations, and George Armstrong is now executive vice president of the Storz Broadcasting Corporation. In January 1956, Storz purchased WDGY in Minneapolis-St. Paul for over a third of $1 million. Again, within 6 months, the Storz formula worked. From 8th place position, WDGY was catapulted into first within 6 months, and sales skyrocketed within 8 months. In August 1956, Storz outbid other contenders for the purchase of Florida's oldest radio station, WQAM, which was purchased from the Miami Herald for $850,000. 2 months later, WQAM was first. July 1957, and KOWH, the original Storz station, and the only one in the entire group ever to be sold, was purchased by a New York investment firm for $822,500, one of the highest prices ever paid for a daytime radio station. A far cry from the original $75,000 purchase price of less than a decade earlier. With the sale of KOWH, Storz started a never-ending search for additional radio properties to bring his chain up to the full strength of the legal limit of 7 set by the Federal Communications Commission. In August 1958, Todd Storz announced the purchase of KOMA, Oklahoma City, a 50,000-watt powerhouse that blankets the entire southwestern United States and beyond for $600,000 cash. For a full decade, Robert H. Storz remained quietly in the background until early 1959, when he disposed of his interest in the Storz Brewing Company, resigning as chairman of the board after 31 years. He wanted to spend more time with his son, Todd, at the Storz radio stations. With his dad, Todd, in August 1960, jointly announced the purchase of KXOK, St. Louis, Missouri, for over $1.5 million. Already established as one of the outstanding Midwestern stations, KXOK achieved even greater ratings and billings under Storz ownership, where today, KXOK is the leading station in St. Louis. Today, there are 6 Storz stations in the chain, all of them independent, all individually vital and important, and collectively one of the dominant forces in American radio. But the young man who started it all, whose insight and foresight culminated into one of the most fantastic success stories of modern-day America, the genius that was Todd Storz, is gone. On April 13th, 1964, at the age of 39, just 15 years after the birth of his company, Todd Storz died peacefully in his sleep. But the dream that he fathered did not die. It lives on today, again in Omaha, Nebraska, where it all started in 1949. The elder Robert H. Storz still oversees the many activities of the company, watching with pride its continued growth. The Storz headquarters there still coordinates the combined efforts of all 6 of the Storz stations to assure a tight and smooth-running operation. In June 1956, Time magazine called Todd Storz the fastest rising figure in U.S. radio. 1 year later, Television magazine described him as a bright, fresh, new force on the radio scene who has brought originality, vitality, and excitement to a medium that has slumbered too long in defeatist nostalgia. The Storz concept can best be summed up in the words of the man himself. We feel that a station's public service value is greatly parallel to the station's rating. Our philosophy is that the audience comes first. We follow the trend, we do not try to lead it. If we tried to educate the public to our taste, we might have no listeners. Sometime it is necessary to sacrifice sales in order to take the long-term approach to audience. Our music, for instance, is controlled entirely by the choice of the public. If the public suddenly showed a preference for Chinese music, we would play it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Storz station. WTIX is proud to be a part of this corporation that today, more than other media, truly influences the influenceables. Thank you.
WTIX is one of the 6 great Storz radio stations.
This is WTIX, New Orleans, Louisiana. A member of the Storz Radio Group, including such outstanding radio stations as WHB, Kansas City, KXOK, St. Louis, WDGY, Minneapolis, St. Cloud, WQAM, Miami, and KOMA, Oklahoma City. All members of the Storz family of good radio listening.